Flying Brian here in Lexington, Virginia. Gonna go see Stonewall Jackson's gravesite. Come along if you shall. This was originally the Presbyterian Churchyard Cemetery, and it's believed the first burials occurred around 1795. After managing the cemetery for more than 150 years, the church turned it over to the city of Lexington in 1949. City leaders renamed it to the Stonewall Jackson Memorial Cemetery. Renamed again in 2000, today it's known as the Oak Grove Cemetery, which honors the original Presbyterian settlers who worshipped here in an oak grove before the first sanctuary was built. Thomas J. Jackson, today more commonly referred to as Stonewall Jackson, came to Lexington in 1851 for employment. Falling back on his 10 years of experience in the U.S. Army, he became a professor at the Virginia Military Institute here in Lexington. He also was a member of the Presbyterian Church, teaching Sunday school classes and becoming a deacon. Then, the American Civil War broke out. Virginia seceded from the Union in May of 1861. Jackson became a member of the Confederate Army. To be honest, Jackson was not known as a good teacher at the Military Institute. However, he quickly became known as a competent commander. It was July of 1861, just 2 months after Virginia's secession. The Battle of Bull Run was raging west of Washington, D.C. Part of the Confederate line was beginning to crumble and fall back when Jackson's brigade arrived. Jackson rode steadfastly atop his horse amid the chaos of battle, directing and reinforcing the Confederate line. The line held. As the legend goes, someone said, "Look at Jackson, standing there like a stone wall." Well, it stuck like glue, and Thomas J. Jackson would forever be known as Stonewall Jackson. 2 years later, Jackson and the Confederate Army found themselves near Chancellorsville, Virginia. It was 3 May 1863. General Jackson and aides were surveying between the battle lines at dusk. Suddenly, shots rang out as Confederate sentries opened fire on the dimly lit group. Friendly fire. Jackson lay mortally wounded. He died on 10 May at Guinea Station, Virginia. He was buried here in Lexington on 15 May 1863. This plaque reads, Field Marshal, the Right Honorable Viscount Wolseley, Knight of the Most Illustrious Order of St. Patrick, Knight of the Most Honorable Order of the Bath, Recipient of the Grand Cross of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael and St. George, British Soldier of the highest rank, says, the name of Stonewall Jackson is no longer the exclusive property of Virginia and the South. It has become the birthright of every man, privileged to call himself an American. Wow, that is quite an endorsement. The General's marker. His 3-month-old daughter, Mary Graham. His wife, Mariana, who died in 1915. William Christian, his son-in-law. Daughter Julia, wife of William Christian. She died at the young age of 26. Grandson, Thomas Christian, who became a brigadier general in the United States Army. And great-grandson, Thomas Christian Jr., who was killed in action in World War II. Thomas Preston, another great-grandson, who died more recently at age 93. I've made my way over to the Washington and Lee University, where another well-known figure of the American Civil War is buried, Confederate General Robert E. Lee. After the war, Lee became president of Lexington's Washington University. He served there until he died in 1870. A year later, the school was renamed and became the Washington Lee University. He was laid to rest in a crypt under the school's chapel, along with his wife and other family members. Just outside the vault is the gravesite of Traveler, Lee's horse. Traveler faithfully carried Lee throughout the entire war. The animal died in 1871, just months after Lee's death. Unfortunately, the bones of Traveler suffered a rather sordid journey to this final burial site. Stolen from their grave, the bones ended up on display in Rochester, New York. Later, they were returned to the university, but still experienced periodic vandalism. Finally, in 1971, the poor animal's bones were entombed here, close to his master. The American Civil War was a tumultuous time in the United States. It raged for 4 years, tearing the country apart, laying open a huge wound. When the conflict was over, the process of healing could finally begin. But healing takes time. As wounds began to mend, left behind were the telltale scars of the nation's injury. Some might say that scars are God's way of reminding us of our past. America today is the result of our past, whether that past be deemed good, bad, or indifferent. It is the very fabric of who we are. To cover up one's past only serves to put one at risk of repeating mistakes. America has never been perfect. It never will be. But America continually moves forward, learns from its mistakes, changes and adapts, and has always endeavored to make life better. I want to thank you for coming along on today's Explore. Remember, life is a journey. Enjoy the ride, and thanks for watching.